one that I love movies, and one of my favorite movies that kind of talks about the brain is Lucy. It is with Morgan Freeman, and I think Charlize Theron is her name. Again, the movie is called Lucy. The Matrix is another one, but Lucy kind of shows you how the capacity of the brain really isn't used. And so when we look at the brain on this World Brain Day, in what ways do you analyze or be logical or critical to yourself or realistic? That is where we're rational. That's when we kind of try to figure out what is going on, when we rationalize a thing that we encounter in our perception. Because again, the perception is what we think based on our experiences. And our perspectives change when we learn more, when we try to analyze, when we really go through this process of the brain. The next step would be the safekeeping of self. This is where we take action. This is where we establish a procedure and we get things done. We organize and timely we plan. So it's kind of like you have to analyze whether or not a thing is for you, right? Before you take the action. Sometimes it may be presented and you say, that's not for me. And you make the decision to not do it and you choose to do something else to get it done. And then sometimes you go to the feeling aspect of self. This is when you're sensitive to others. You like to teach, you like touch, you're very supportive, you're expressive in how you feel about things, and you can be a bit emotional. I always talk about emotions, energy being put in motion. What energy are we putting in motion when we are going through this thought process? Because it's okay to feel, but again, based off of that feeling, how do you move? How do you move? And then you have the fourth corridor, which is the frontal part of the brain, which talks about the imagination, the speculation, the taking risk, breaking rules, like surprises. The reason I like this model is because, again, it activates all parts of your brain. If you only stay stuck in overanalyzing, then you cannot move forward. You cannot take action. You can't get things done because you may be overthinking. And that overthinking then can create anxiety. It can then create blockages in how you move forward. And so when we put ourselves in a place to be expressive or even talk about the said thing that we've been analyzing, it can move and shift and bring in a new perspective. New perspectives for me, I'm still like a kid. I still watch animation. So a lot of movies, to me, it activates my imagination. It helps me to see things from different perspectives. Just like a child who is curious, how do we stay in this aspect of ourselves even as we get older? Because sometimes we say, oh, I'm too old to do that. But then you have some people that are in their 70s that are bungee jumping. That's not my thing personally, but I will never say that I won't do it. So when we look at this chart, have you or do you, with your thought process, go through all cycles before you actually make the decision to, because it may not be in this order. It may not happen in this order. It may happen into where you feel first, you're with your feeling self first, and then you analyze. And then you go into the imagination and then take action. So it's your thought process. There is no right or wrong way to do this. It's just to help you understand, how do you utilize your brain? How do you activate those different parts of your brain when it comes to this? Because again, there is no specific order. It is based off of you and how you move. And so me, for example, I may overanalyze at times. And when I tend to overanalyze, I freeze and I don't move forward on the said thing. But I also have accountability partners or people that I can call and talk it out so that I can have a logical perspective given to me versus one where I become emotional because of that said thing that I've overanalyzed. And I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, because again, sometimes these things are not introduced to us. And so we don't understand how this may apply to us. So I like graphics because it helps you understand, well, maybe this is the route that I take. This is my learning process of how my brain works, because again, there is no right or wrong. And so I'm going to leave it up just in case someone wants to continue to look at it, take pictures. But I do want to talk about this. Like, what do you find your thought process to be? How do you work with those areas when, um, you know, you may overthink, or you may not move, or you may have an imagination that is like super grandiose, that is not realistic. Because sometimes we can walk as if we're happy, but on the inside we may not be, because we don't have anyone to express those things with. So I love I love this model. This is a Herman global model. So you can look at Herman HBDI, or you could just Google HBDI assessments, and it is an assessment that you can take. It is something that is mainly used in corporate. However, I like to use it because of the community. I think that if we take this step in our own communities, we'll be able to look at things differently. I.e., right now, we're dealing with a lot of people that may have anxiety about this election. And now we have Kamala Harris coming up with against, Trump. So some people's thought process with this whole experience may take them specifically just to this emotion, but not make moves on, again, what preventative actions, what things that we need to take, global warming, all of these different things outside of us. But when we think of our outside world, it really is what's going on inside in the collective mind. So, in what ways in your community can you see this being used in your family or in your household as you are communicating with other people? Because again, the brain is very vast. It is something that our second brain is connected in our gut. So the way that we say, oh, I have this gut feeling, do you take yourself through this process? Or when you get angry and you feel the heat rise from your lower back, your spine, and it goes up to your head and then you're sweating, have you taken yourself through these steps of what does that look like? Okay, I feel this way. Let me analyze that. What action can be taken towards what I feel in order for me to be playful here and not speculate and get stuck or caught up in something? Any questions? It is a topic of discussion that I would like to have. What do you think about the brain, memory loss? Some of the things that I'm going to share today are ways to help actually strengthen your brain, because there's so many nerves that are going on in your brain. Your brain is filled with water, whether we realize it or not. And for those that have been with me for some time, we talk about how the water that is in our body is messages from the water with Dr. His name is slipping my mind right now, but he did Dr. Emoto. He actually did an experiment talking about the brain, or just water itself. And so knowing that the water is majority body, how are we thinking? How are we creating ease in our life or dis-ease? So let me pull up this other thing. Are there any questions when we think about this process? Hi, Miss Phyllis. I see the baby. Hi, Brianna. Welcome.
Hi, Kemi. Hi, everyone. So good to be here. I have a question in terms of question/comment with the 4 quadrants. How does that show up in terms of your attachment styles? Because I can see for me in work, maybe I'm using maybe more my rational, because that's the environment that's sort of promoted. And whereas maybe in family, my attachment style may be a little bit less secure. And so I might be a little bit more anxious. And so maybe I tend to go to another part of that quadrant, maybe the emotional side. And I'm wondering what's your advice or thoughts around just how in certain spaces you navigate differently?
And that's a great question, because one of the exercises that you can do during this, when it talks about healthy brain, a lot of us don't put ourselves in the shoes of another person, right? And so when we put ourselves in the shoes of someone else, it kind of harnesses that power of bringing a different context to the situation so that you're not easily triggered, or easily go into a state of anxiety because of this person saying something. And then also speaking your truth, if it bothered you, being able to just say, hey, that really offended me, or that really, touched a part of me that I didn't really know was there. And I have to just let you know. A perfect example, a mother may say something and it may be triggering, i.e., I don't understand why you're doing that. It's not making sense to me type statement. And you're wasting your time and money, but yet what you're doing is investing in yourself. So you can simply say that if that really did offend me or hurt me because I'm working on my dream goal. So for you to find it not be, useful to you doesn't mean that it's not useful for me. So it's allowing you to be expressive as well as feel and be logical about just honest how you feel, but that putting yourself in someone else's shoes, how would this person respond or why are they responding that way? It's helping you to look outside of your scope and giving you a new perspective. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, they did. That's really helpful. Thank you. Yes.
You're so welcome. Another way to also work through this cycle of things is to embrace your inner introvert. And I'm going to share this. This is also from the same company. It is thinkherman.com, and that's Herman with two N's. But these are ways that you can actually celebrate. And anybody that may want to take pictures, you can do so if you want to get a grip a view of this, but movement is one of the ways. It could be dancing, it could be jump roping, it could be a walk in the afternoon. But what that does is it circulates the blood and it releases certain mood altering chemicals. So some people, for example, when they're upset, they go jogging, running, boxing, martial arts. Some people may do yoga, but whatever it is, you want to make sure that your body is moving, not just from your couch to your refrigerator to the bathroom and back to the couch. Meaning you want to get out in nature. You want to make sure that you're exploring nature or doing something to again create a good environment physically, but also mentally. It'll lessen the depression and things of that nature. The other thing is your inner introvert. What does that mean? Being quiet still within yourself. And then when you're in that space, do you write down your thoughts or do you just let the thoughts be there? It's really good to write down those thoughts. Another way is a shower. A cold shower normally does work as well. It does relax your brain state. I would say even a bath is something that you can also help in those moments of anxiety. I like using certain herbs or oils in my bath. So lavender, if you're allergic to lavender, it could be something eucalyptus, chamomile. Those are things that you can actually do as well to help with this meditation and taking a shower. Daydreaming. I don't know how many of you guys still daydream. I love daydreaming. I'm like a kid when I daydream. So hopefully you guys are all still daydreaming because daydreaming is something that really can activate your brain to be creative in pretty much co-creating with the creator. Weird ideas, something that may be weird to you may actually be an idea that can become lucrative or something that you can share with somebody else. But it does bring an optimal state for you to generate just newness. If you think of a kid, a child is always, to me, daydreaming. And sometimes we forget to daydream because we're in this rat race. We're always going to work, home, or even those that may be retired. I didn't work so much, I'm just going to sit here and pop some bonbons, whatever that may be for the retired person. And then we already discussed putting yourself in someone else's shoes. In what ways do you feed your brain? Feeding your brain is not just the foods that are rich in omega-3s, seafood, salmon, things of that nature, but in what way are you feeding your brain? Maybe going even to an art gallery or going out to a place that you've never been to, because again, you've seen different art from different perspectives. a museum that may have history. Some people don't like seeing history, but those things also help with the brain. And yes, Grace, Miss Grace, I will put it in the chat. And Miss Brenda, do you hear us now? Just put a thumbs up because I just saw that you said you can't hear. And for those that are on the Zoom with us now, it is in the chat. For those that are not live with us, it is Think Herman with two M's, H-E, and two R's, HERRMANN.com. You can also put in brain day 15 activities or activities for brain health. That would also bring it up as one of the top links. Moving forward with the last 15.